So, um, Roe v. Wade overturned. We expected it. Um, it was. I mean, okay. I'm going live, so I can't delete any backtracking or whatever flubs when talking. But yes, Roe v. Wade is overturned. We knew this would happen when the leaks started. We knew. I mean, a lot of us knew as soon as, like, Brett Kavanaugh was added to the Supreme Court and then, Amy Coney Barrett, that they were going to overturn Roe v. Wade no matter what they said because they're a bunch of lying liars who lie. Um, so it's not unexpected, but it is still a painful reminder that in the United States of America, sorry if I seem to be looking to the side a lot, dual monitor camera in the center, that sort of setup. GOP is currently eroding human rights in America. The reason why being they want total control. They're fascists. Like, I'm just going to be upfront. The GOP, the people in charge, they're a bunch of fascists. I'm sure this may get rid of some followers, subscribers, or whatever on my channel. But it needs to be said. No matter what your usual topic is. Like, I try to stick mainly to tutorials. But even so, there's just been a slow erosion of human rights in America. And the GOP is starting with, technically first it was both sex workers and queer people with the introduction of FOSTA SESTA, which put laws in place that made it so that websites would essentially be blamed if child porn ended up on their website rather than the individual who put it there, which meant that they really made stringent rules that affected sex workers as well as a lot of queer people. You'll see this most notably on with the whole Tumblr situation. And that was, not even the first strike. They've been fighting back against the GOP, the conservatives. They've been fighting back against black people getting rights. They've been doing that for decades. So in more recent years, there was FOSTA SESTA. And then they started with the critical race theory in response to the 1619 Project, which they also, then Trump created the 1776 report as a response to the 1619 Project. Critical race theory is a very complex law school thing. It's, something discussed in law school. Some of the topics are definitely something that, more people should be aware of, like the fact that the society we're in is built on systemic racism. That's pretty understandable, but some of the concepts within actual critical race theory is not something that would be taught to kindergartners, okay? They would just stare at you blankly because of the advanced terminology. So there was the critical race theory attacks that are still going on now, because how dare teachers teach that racism exists? And, there's been an uptick in attacks on the queer community with, I mean, it sort of changed. The attacks on the queer community kind of changed since like the early 2000s, especially as more people started accepting queer people. Crazy. But, since April, I think April is when it's most noticeable, and when my anxiety started to notice it, that's for sure. There was a total uptick in right in conservatives calling any queer person, all queer people, uh, groomer, a term that refers to an adult training a minor for sexual acts. Like, there is a very specific definition, and the conservatives are trying to erode that and also try to make people think that queer people are pedophiles. That, that's been ticking up since April. You have the Libs of TikTok account getting people, inciting targeted harassment against queer people, as well as all sorts of, fascist sort of subgroups, the Proud Boys, the group that attack the, drag your kids to Pride event, that this June, as a queer person, I'm lucky. I'm not obviously queer, aside from the fact that my hair is purple-ish. I need to re-dye it. And yeah, they've been eroding our rights. They've been passing all sorts of laws banning discussion of race, banning discussion of queer people, banning trans kids from being part of school sports. Like, this has been happening. And now Roe v. Wade is officially overturned, with several states poised to pass anti-abortion laws. And the Democrats just aren't doing enough. Like, thus far, as of recording that I know of, Ed Markey of Massachusetts is the one of, like, potentially the only Democratic politician who is using this to send donations to abortion funds rather than to his own campaign. And, I'm not saying that fighting this outcome would have been easy. No, not with, like, Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema. What I'm saying is, Biden should have been writing executive order after executive order. Yes, the Supreme Court is able to overturn executive orders. But if you sign, like, a stupid amount of executive orders, like Trump, then the Supreme Court doesn't have time to go through all of them. And also, it energizes the base by making the base think that you're actually doing something. Like, going out and saying, please don't be violent, that's just chastising pissed off people for being pissed off that their rights are being stripped away. Like, how is that a reasonable response to scores of people unable to get abortion? There are people who will fucking die of sepsis because of this. Sepsis, if you didn't know, being that thing where you're bleeding internally and getting an internal infection and then you die. Okay? It's common among people who can get pregnant because pregnancy is a very dangerous medical condition that all sorts of things can go wrong, including miscarriages, including fetal abnormalities, including the fetus growing in the fucking fallopian tubes, aka very thin tubes that are not not microscopic, but very tiny tubes that are not meant to expand. Okay? The uterus is specifically designed to expand. If a fetus starts growing in the fallopian tubes, the tubes are going to explode, and that will cause sepsis, and the woman's or the person will statistically die. Okay? The only way to keep the person from dying is via an abortion. Okay? And you can't just transplant the fetus. It's a fucking clump of cells. Okay? You know, it's... There's a lot of shit going on. Okay? This is not even a culminating point, but I really hope that, you know, with the Roe v. Wade no longer being a thing, maybe people will actually listen to black women and, oh, I don't know, fight for all of our rights and actually step the fuck up. Okay? Like, we can stop what's happening in this country, but we need as many people as possible to stop hem-hawing over, like, well, maybe those trans people did I feel kind of uncomfortable, and stop hem-hawing over, well, I mean, sure, you say that there's slaves in our prisons, but didn't they stop hem-hawing over all of that, okay? We're talking actual human rights, alright? So stop your centrist bullshit, stop siding with the fascists, and actually step the fuck up. In the description, I linked to an abortion fund. Right now their site's down because OG. I wonder why. But I also linked the redirect, which I guess I didn't need to link the specific redirect if the site was going to redirect. But either way, you can donate to abortionfunds.org. Your donation will be split between 80 different abortion funds. I did leave my Ko-fi link in, but I removed all the other usual affiliate blah 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 because that's not appropriate. What's appropriate is people, you know, donating their time, donating their money to abortion funds. You know, listen. Fucking listen when people tell you that, you know, fascists are trying to overturn their country. Like, fucking listen, okay? And, you know, listen when disabled people tell you that there's that their rights are being stripped away, and there's a lot of shit going on, okay? Because, let me tell you, non-disabled people have been calling this stuff out all pandemic. You know, listen, I mention black women in particular because I follow black women who are saying this stuff, okay? I want, like, you know, Tinu on Twitter is a great source of knowledge and has been saying a lot of this stuff, alright? And, you know, show up to protests, okay? I know there is debate on whether protests and march do stuff, actually do something. But you know what? As long as you're disrupting everyday life for these fuck-ass conservatives, good. That, show you're displeased with what's going on. Show them that you're not going to, like, you're not going to accept it. And that's another thing. Fascism relies on lies. Lies, lies, lies. Lies about their intent. Because no, they're not trying to help people. They're not trying to help the working class. They're trying to help themselves and rich people. They rely on lies on what's going on. Just all sorts of lies. Lies in their propaganda, like Fox News and OAN. And Alex Jones and all of that. Cool. Thanks for watching and chatting, Tarot Destroyer. I forget who Margaret Sanger is, admittedly. But we need to expose the lies of the fascists, alright? We need to speak truth. We need to expose that they're lying about intent and speak truth. No, this is not going to convince everyone, and no, this is not going to convince people to become a lefty on the left. But just making it clear that what they're doing is not acceptable. Make it extremely clear that no, what they're doing to trans people, not acceptable. What they're doing to women or to people who can become pregnant, that's not acceptable. Just make it clear that what they're trying to do to black people, that's not acceptable. Make it clear that what they're doing is not acceptable. And expose the truth, alright? You know, just, like I said, donate to abortionfunds.org. I just wanted to make a video making it clear what my stance on this was. And just show up.